independent education evaluation. That's what we're going to talk about today on the Special Education Inner Circle podcast. I'm your host, Catherine Witcher, and IEEs are something that typically we talk about in special education under very high stress situations. The parent is typically very worried about their child, their present levels of performance. Have they, had meaningful progress? The school is stressed out because they're like, oh my gosh, this concept of IEE is coming up in our meetings, and they're trying to scramble and kind of show like, we're doing our job. We promise, like we're collecting the data. We're doing the evaluations. Like we have enough information. And then typically the parents saying like, well, no, we need additional information. And you guys know, right? You know the situation that's happening. And it's a stressed out school system and a very stressed out and worried parent, and they're trying to find a solution. And you know what? Today I'm going to bring a couple of solutions to you when it comes to this concept of IEEs. But first, let's define what an IEE is. Remember, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving you legal advice, but if you go Google IDEA law, so that's our federal law that governs special education, and you go Google IEE and IDEA law, you'll see that there's this very broad definition that just says an independent educational evaluation is an evaluation that is given by somebody who is not paid by the school. That's it. Any kind of evaluation in any area. And in this IEE typically this conversation comes about when a parent is unhappy and they say, that's it, I'm going to ask the school to pay for an IEE. That's usually the first time that I'm hearing it in a conversation, is when a parent brings it up and says, okay, I need the school to pay for an IEE. I don't agree with the information they're giving me. I need the school to pay for this. And I always say, well, hold up. There's another part in IDEA law that says if a parent requests an IEE and they want the school to pay for it, and the school's like, no, we're not going to pay for it, our information is correct, the school has two choices. They either A, say, okay, I'm going to pay for it, or B, they can file for due process. It's like this trigger that happens in special education that a lot of people don't realize, that the law literally says, if the parent says, hey, I want you to pay for my child's IEE, that can trigger into due process quickly. So I want to help you stay out of that situation and make sure that we have the best information possible, so we're making the smartest decisions about how to build this appropriate education. And a lot of times that does require an IEE, sometimes paid for by the school, sometimes not paid for by the school. And it really depends on the situation. So I know that you hear me say all the time that the school needs to be responsible for an appropriate education, and they are absolutely responsible for all the pieces and getting everything done. And typically that would mean things like an IEE, but there are certain situations where it's important for you to understand that it's okay to seek outside advice, knowing how you're going to use it. So let me give an example. Let's just say that you are concerned that your child has ADHD, and the school is not going to ever give an evaluation that's going to say your child has ADHD. And you want to seek some other information to really look at, does my child really have these characteristics of ADHD? Or maybe you're feeling this way about dyslexia. Maybe you're feeling like, does my child have dyslexia? And the school's like, we don't test for dyslexia. Now that's a whole other conversation, because in the dyslexia world, there are things that need to happen differently, but you're having this conversation back and forth with the school, and you're like, I just need to know. Like at this point, I am not asking you to pay for anything. I just need to know, like, can you guys do screenings? Do I need to seek elsewhere? Can somebody please just give me some help? Have you ever been there as a parent? I've been there as a parent. I've been there as a parent where I'm just like, you know what? I just need to know. There's a couple of other things that, you might want to just kind of skip over the whole, I need an IEE paid for by the school. And that might be in executive functioning, because executive functioning, when we're talking about all different areas of executive functioning, the school is going to be concerned with the educational environment first and foremost, but yet you have other things that are happening at home. And you're like, okay, I need some additional information. So this would be a good time for you to consider an IEE perhaps not paid for by the school. Now, here's how the law works. So this is kind of piece number 3. So piece number 1 is we defined what an IEE is. Number 2, we defined that if we ask the school to pay for it, then that could trigger into due process. And then number 3 is, okay, if we decide that we're going to go get some information, now what do we do with it? And this is where the law says it is absolutely critical and mandated, okay, that the school consider any IEEs that are brought into the school. Meaning, okay, so you go and you get this executive functioning assessments and evaluations done by a third party, which I'm going to tell you, I found this third party called Parallel Learning, that you can do all this straight from home, right? So Parallel Learning, I'm going to make sure to put the links here. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about them, but just know if you're just like, oh my goodness, I could not imagine like going through this whole process. I'm already tired and exhausted. You're going to want to jump right now to go click on Parallel Learning. You're like, yes, I need to know what this is, because to be able to do this from home and to be able to do this quickly is really important. So Parallel Learning. Okay. So here's the thing. Consider the IEE. That's what has to happen once you get the IEE. And that's something that is very flexible, meaning sometimes parents have the experience that the school looked at an IEE report and they kind of go, well, that's nice, but we don't do that here. And they really don't address it. There are absolutely ways that we can avoid that from happening, and we can make your IEE that you go and achieve for your child. Or teachers, listen in. If you get an IEE, there are absolutely ways that you can work in those recommendations to help build an appropriate education during the school day in a different way than maybe you were doing before this information. So it's really important for us to work on this consideration part. And to do that, we need to have quality information. That's what's really important, is that we have quality information that we're bringing to the table, that we're bringing factual data, that we're bringing professional information, not opinions, to the table. So going to seek an IEE for situations where you're like, I can't wait for the school, okay? Or if you're thinking the school doesn't really address this area, but I need this addressed for my child, that would be a situation. And teachers, admins, therapists who are employed by the school district, here's your role in this. You are not going to go tell a parent, you need to go get an IEE and pay for it by yourself. Don't ever say that, okay? But you can say, this is the parameters of what we offer in school, of what we have, of what we, consider for an appropriate education. And if there are things that are happening outside of school and not in school, then that might be something where you can give some recommendations of some possible areas to explore. It is kind of a touchy situation because of the way that the law is set up, but it is a conversation you can have. But my teachers and admins and therapists, the biggest role that you can have in this IEE process is that if a parent goes and gets an IEE, is that you truly consider this information and how it can shift the child's IEP to make more consistency between home and school, especially if the parent's going to be following the recommendations at home. We all know that students make more progress when we're doing the same thing at home and school. So, okay, so let me just tell you a little bit about how IEEs can be, implemented, can be achieved, can be accessed right now. This is like, I know it sounds crazy for me to say, like, this is mind blowing to me now, but it still is. Because let me tell you, IEEs typically still, even for the last, 20 years, it's been this way, and it hasn't changed much. IEEs typically require anywhere from a 4 to 6 month waiting period for parents. They're typically, $5,000 to $10,000, sometimes covered by insurance, and depending on what you're getting done, it can be a lot of expenses. And then the recommendations are typically extremely high cost also. So it's important for my school team members who are listening here to understand that as the parent waits 6 months, and then they pay a lot of money out of pocket, and then they bring suggestions, and then you're like, no, we're not going to do those. Oh, it's heartbreaking. They've gone through a lot of work to do this. So this resource that I'm talking about, Parallel, I was looking, is there a better way? Is there a better way that we could achieve IEE information, evaluations. Is there a better way that we can get this in a way that's convenient for the family and affordable, and it's going to create results quicker so we can get that consistency between home and school? And that's where I found parallel learning. And I want to tell you too that below in the links or wherever you're listening or watching to this, you're going to have a link for a free 15-minute consult. So that's something that they offer. So that's so good. So you can figure out if this is a right fit for you, because again, in our disability community, so many times we're waiting and waiting and waiting, and then we show up for something and we're like, oh, this is not the right fit. But if you can sign up for a free 15-minute consult, which I'll be honest with you, I signed up for a free 15-minute consult because I wanted to check out their process for you. And it has been super smooth so far. So again, if you are thinking as a parent, gosh, I wish I could just get some additional information, and I just want to figure out if this is something that my child needs or that I should pursue, I would highly suggest following the link and getting your 15-minute consultation. Now, I'm going to go through the consultation, and then I'm going to follow up with you guys, and I'm going to let you know, how did it go? I'm going to get the sample reports. I'm going to get the sample recommendations. I'm going to get the sample plans. I'm going to get all of that, and I'll do a follow-up, because it's really important for you to understand that an IEE is sometimes the turning point for a child receiving an appropriate education, because bringing in that third-party information, and this person is not invested into the IEP process the same way that you are as a parent, a teacher, an admin, a therapist. They're not looking at the staff shortages. They're not looking at the lack of resources. They're looking as independent practitioners of where's this child at, and in what areas is the family concerned, and how can we best evaluate this child and help them get the information that they need so they can make decisions moving forward on, do we need therapy? Do we need counseling? Do we need more consistency between home and school? Do we need different tools? Do we need different supports? Do we need different accommodations, modifications? You know, again, I've been doing this for 2 decades, and I will never, ever, ever say that I have all the answers for a child. I look through things through my experience, through my education, through my lens. But I know that when I bring a bunch of experts together and we're on the same page to move forward and to help a child get from where they are to where they need to be, when we look at these different perspectives and we get different information, different data, it can shift the entire future for a child. So I want you, again, let's take this concept of IEE and stop using it as a threat. Let's stop using it as the last resort. It doesn't have to be. An IEE is simply an evaluation that is completed by somebody who is not employed by the school district. It needs to be considered by the school if it is paid for by the parents and then brought to the school. If you force the issue of that the school must pay for an IEE, again, just be, on alert that could cause some conflict as far as due process with that. And as a parent, I never want you to hold back and say, well, the school won't do it, so it must not be needed, or the school won't do it, so it can't be done, or I have to wait 6 months to get this done, and in the meantime we're in this holding pattern. There's so many other options like Parallel who can really help you get the information that you need to move your child forward. There are experts out there, and Parallel has brought the best of the best from my experience right now. And again, I'm going to keep you guys updated, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, I'm going to encourage you to go grab your 15-minute consult with them. And I want to, encourage you that when you see the drama that's happening in the Facebook groups, or, just out in the carpool line or the teacher's lounge, all about IEEs, just know that it doesn't have to be a hot topic of conflict that causes more division on the IEP team. That an IEE can actually solve a lot of our struggles. We just have to get on the same page about what it can do and how we can work together to implement it between home and school. Again, I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and leave a 5-star review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, if you're listening on YouTube or Facebook, Instagram. Make sure to leave a comment. Every time you leave a review or you leave a comment, it helps more parents and teachers find new resources like Parallel, get new strategies like knowing how to not use an IEE as a weapon and a conversation, based on conflict. It helps us bring together IEP teams for what needs to get done, which is preparing a child for further education, employment, independent living. So please leave that review, leave that comment, and I'll talk to you guys soon.